What if the two women who once couldn't stand each other suddenly found themselves standing on the same side? And what if their reunion wasn't just a healing moment, but the spark that flipped an entire fandom against itself? Tonight, you'll see how a single moment of reconnection between Janelle and Meri shook millions of viewers, revived painful history, and created the most unexpected twist the Sister Wives universe has seen in a decade. And the truth behind why they reconnected is far more complicated than anyone expected. Once upon a time, Janelle and Meri lived under the same roof, but never truly shared the same home. To understand why their unexpected reunion has fans spiraling, we have to go back, way back, to where the cracks first appeared. When Janelle joined the Brown family, the energy shifted instantly. Meri, the original wife, the one who helped build the entire structure, suddenly felt pushed aside. And Janelle, the pragmatic, quiet thinker, felt judged, misunderstood, and alone. Because what happened next would define every conflict for the next 20 years. Both women struggled with territory, boundaries, motherhood roles, emotional safety, and Kody's inconsistent attention. And slowly, resentment settled in like dust on old shelves. But now, decades later, something unbelievable has happened. These two women, the ones who rarely shared warmth, are finding their way back to each other, and fans don't know how to process it. For years, Janelle represented independence, logic, and quiet suffering. Meri represented loyalty, identity, and emotional vulnerability. They lived parallel lives under one man's decisions. But in the end, Kody's choices fractured everything. For Meri, the emotional abandonment was slow, suffocating. For Janelle, the disrespect was sudden, volatile. But the biggest irony, the same man who divided them, may have accidentally pushed them back together. When Christine walked away, truth spilled everywhere. When Janelle separated emotionally, more truth came out. And when Kody chose Robyn, over and over, all the walls finally collapsed. And then, it happened. One photo, one moment, one unexpected interaction. And just like that, Reddit erupted. Fans split into two sides. Thousands of comments poured in within hours. Old conflicts resurfaced. New theories emerged. But the real twist wasn't the photo. It was what happened behind it. What if the reunion wasn't about forgiveness, but about survival? Sources close to the family claim that Janelle and Meri met because they were both struggling, emotionally, financially, and spiritually, in ways fans didn't know. They weren't just reconnecting, they were rebuilding. Janelle needed someone who understood the emotional exhaustion of polygamy. Meri needed someone who understood the rejection of Kody's favoritism. And unexpectedly, they found that in each other. But the twist doesn't end there. Fans believed they were healing their decades-old rift. But insiders revealed that their reunion was also influenced by something else. Kody wasn't prepared for them to unite. And when they did, it changed everything. The moment the public sensed this new alliance, the internet split open. For many women watching Sister Wives, this wasn't just entertainment. It was a mirror. The deeper issue wasn't friendship. It was loyalty, trauma, female endurance, and emotional freedom. And the backlash hit Kody like a storm. Because if Janelle and Meri finally stood together, what did that mean for his legacy? It meant the entire narrative shifted. The power moved. The story belonged to the women now. In the end, Janelle and Meri's reunion wasn't about the past. It was about redefining the future. Whether their friendship becomes deep or remains distant, it symbolizes something bigger. Women can grow. Women can forgive. Women can evolve past the walls men build around them. And maybe, just maybe, that's why the fandom is so divided. Because their reunion forces every viewer to face their own story of pain, betrayal, and healing. But this story is far from over. The next chapter will shake everything again. And tell us in the comments. Do you believe Janelle and Meri's reunion is real? Or is there more behind the scenes than we know? Now I told you what happened about. Are Janelle and Meri truly growing closer again? How Garrison's tragedy changed everything. What if one heartbreaking moment changed not just a family, but the entire relationship between two women who spent decades at odds? What if grief didn't pull them apart, but pushed them into the closest emotional space they've ever shared? Now, we uncover how Garrison's death created a ripple effect that no one expected. And why fans everywhere are asking the same question. Are Janelle and Meri finally reconnecting, or is something else at play? And the truth behind their sudden closeness will lead to a twist you won't see coming. Grief changes people, sometimes permanently. To understand why Janelle and Meri's dynamic looks different now, we need to revisit their long, painful history. For nearly 30 years, these two women shared a home, a husband, and a dream. But almost never shared emotional safety. From the earliest days, clashes were frequent. Confusion over roles, jealousy over space, clashes over parenting, emotional misunderstandings. And a husband who never truly mediated. And all those wounds would resurface when tragedy struck. Their distance wasn't just personal. It was structural, built into the very foundation of the Brown family. Janelle and Meri were never natural allies. Janelle built walls to protect herself. Meri tried to tear down walls to feel included. Both felt unappreciated, in very different ways. But when Christine left, and then when Janelle separated emotionally from Kody, Meri found herself the last wife standing. And that's when the entire emotional map shifted. Because the two women who had always avoided each other had no one left but each other. But even then, they didn't grow close. They simply survived, separately. Until the moment everything changed. When Garrison passed, the Brown universe cracked open. For Janelle, the grief was unimaginable. For Meri, despite their past, the grief was undeniable. And for Kody, the world was watching. But behind the scenes, something unexpected began to form. A fragile emotional thread between Janelle and Meri. They had experienced losses before. But this was different. Shared pain, shared shock, shared betrayal. Because fans believed Kody's handling of the tragedy only pushed his wives farther from him. And closer to each other. Fans think they're reconnecting because they suddenly realize they need each other. But the real reason is far more complicated. Multiple behind-the-scenes accounts say Janelle and Meri were encouraged, even urged, to communicate more during the aftermath of Garrison's passing. Not for friendship, but for healing trauma. And here's the twist. It wasn't their idea. Producers, counselors, and close friends reportedly suggested that the two women share space, talk about grief, and support each other not as sister wives, but as two mothers navigating a family collapse. And in that process, something surprising happened. They found common ground, for the first time in decades. Not friendship, not alliance, Not forgiveness, but recognition. They finally saw each other's pain. When viewers noticed Janelle and Meri interacting again, the internet exploded. They're healing. They're growing. This is beautiful. This feels fake. Meri doesn't deserve space in Janelle's healing. Kody doesn't deserve to be part of this narrative. And then came the hardest backlash of all. Aimed right at Kody. Fans accused him of causing emotional fractures that led to Garrison feeling unsupported. Others blamed his favoritism. Others questioned his silence. The family didn't just suffer a loss. They faced a public reckoning. And in that storm, Janelle and Meri found themselves aligned, not out of love, but out of survival. Today, Janelle and Meri are not best friends. They are not building a new sisterhood. They are not pretending decades of conflict never happened. But they are finding a new emotional space. As two women who lost someone they both loved deeply. And sometimes, that's more powerful than friendship. Whether this new closeness lasts, or fades when emotions settle, remains to be seen. But one thing is clear. Garrison's death didn't just reshape the Brown family. It reshaped the relationships fans thought were impossible to mend. And in the quiet spaces between grief and healing, Janelle and Meri are writing a chapter the world never expected. If you want to follow every emotional turn, every behind-the-scenes shift, and every unexpected reunion inside the Sister Wives universe, and tell us in the comments. Do you think Janelle and Meri are truly reconnecting? Or is this just the temporary closeness created by grief? Let's deep dive in full details. Sometimes, the people who hurt each other the most become the only ones left who understand. And right now, Sister Wives fans are asking one question louder than ever. Are Janelle and Meri actually growing close again? Or is something else happening? Something darker, something no one saw coming. Because after Garrison's heartbreaking death, everything changed. Family lines shifted, old grudges cracked open, and the two wives who spent 30 years in emotional tug-of-war suddenly appeared, side by side. And the real reason behind that shift is far more complicated than fans realize. Before we can understand this moment, we must rewind all the way back to the beginning. When Meri became the first wife, she carried the full weight of the dream. Plural marriage is a spiritual calling, a commitment, a legacy. But when Janelle entered the family in 1993, nothing was ever the same again. Meri, Season 1. We were all adjusting. I didn't know how to communicate what I was feeling. Janelle, Season 3. We were so different. I kept to myself. I didn't know how to connect. And that's the foundation of the tension. Two women, polar opposites, forced into emotional proximity by a system that gave them no room to breathe. And the conflict we saw in episodes wasn't even half of the story. Throughout the early seasons, their resentment simmered quietly. The little glances, the suppressed comments, the unspoken territorial boundaries. This wasn't simple jealousy. This was deeper, historical, generational, emotional. Legally, spiritually, and financially, Janelle and Meri lived in separate worlds under one roof. Under Utah's old bigamy and cohabitation laws, pre-2020 reforms, polygamous families lived with constant fear of legal scrutiny. This added pressure, secrecy, and emotional tension inside the homes. Kody did not mediate well. He admitted repeatedly that he avoided conflict, and his avoidance carved the wounds deeper. But none of that compares to the shift that happened after Garrison. On March 5, 2024, The Brown family received a phone call that no parent should ever receive. Garrison's death devastated the entire family. But for Janelle, it destroyed a part of her soul. And quietly, unexpectedly, Meri stepped forward. Meri, who had once been the emotional rival, suddenly became one of the few people who understood Janelle's grief intimately. And this is where everything changed. Not because they became best friends, but because tragedy forced them into shared emotional space. According to multiple behind-the-scenes sources and fan eyewitness accounts from Flagstaff, Meri was present at key family gatherings following the tragedy. Not dominating, not performing, just present. And that presence sparked the first shift in decades. When fans saw Janelle and Meri together in public weeks later, Reddit exploded. Reddit comments: "This is surreal. They were never this close before. Is trauma bonding real? Is this what we're watching? Did Kody push them together?" Fans on Facebook mother groups, especially women who experienced blended family conflict, were surprisingly supportive. Facebook comments: "Loss changes everything. Women understand each other in ways men never can." YouTube comments: "Are we watching the rebirth of Sisterhood 2.0? This feels real, not scripted." But behind the emotional warmth lies a twist that no one expected. Producers allegedly arranged joint counseling sessions following the tragedy to help the fractured wives process grief collectively. And during those sessions, Janelle and Meri shared stories, tears, suppressed memories. Raw, unfiltered, for the first time in 20 years. The biggest misconception is that Janelle and Meri became friends again. They didn't. Not exactly. What really happened is far more complicated and far more powerful. Janelle and Meri didn't reconnect because they forgave each other. They reconnected because they both finally saw Kody clearly. The same man who neglected Meri emotionally for a decade. And the same man whose distancing from his older children left Garrison feeling alone. For the first time ever, they shared a common emotional truth. They both loved someone Kody failed. And that shared heartbreak, not friendship, pulled them together. And this twist rewrote the entire sister wives storyline. It redefined the lines, reframed the alliances, and forced fans to confront a truth that many women already knew. Sometimes, the man holding the family together is the one pulling it apart. Today, Janelle and Meri are not best friends. They're not rebuilding a sisterhood. They're not rewriting history, but they are standing in the same emotional room for the first time in years. And that matters. It matters to fans. It matters to women in complex marriages. It matters to anyone who has ever held grief in their hands. And it marks the beginning of a new chapter. Not in sister wives, but in the lives of two women who survived the same storm. And the next episode of their real story. It's coming. And it will shake the fandom again. If this deep dive helped you understand the emotional layers behind Janelle and Meri's unexpected reunion, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And comment below. Do you think Janelle and Meri are truly healing? Or just trauma bonding after tragedy? Your voice, your perspective, your story. They all matter here. And we'll be reading every comment for the next episode.